Okay, hello to all of you. Now let's discuss chapter number 3. So basically chapter number 3 is all about cells and different kinds of cells, and we are going to go into the cells and we are going to study their structure. So let me go into the slideshow mode. Okay, so if you read from your book, in your book every chapter starts with a story, right? So this chapter starts with the story of this person. His name is Dr. Alexander Fleming, and he's the one who actually found the first antibiotic. I hope you guys know what antibiotics are. Antibiotics are the medicines which are given to treat the bacterial infections. So he was the one who actually discovered the first antibiotic called penicillin. And how he did, so basically you can see this is his lab and these are the plates, and actually on these plates he was growing some bacteria, and eventually as a contaminant some mold also started, some fungus also started growing. And what he discovered was, let me show. So what he discovered was, I think it's more clear in this picture. So this is all bacterial culture growing on a petri dish, and this is the mold growing, okay, and this mold's name is penicillium mold. And you can see under the microscope it looks like this. You can see that wherever this mold is growing, there is no growth of the bacteria. So looking from this plate, and he's showing you the same plate, looking at this plate, what he discovered was, you can see in this plate also the same thing is happening. This is a mold growing and this is a bacteria growing. So in this picture also you can see that where mold is, around that mold the bacteria is not growing. So which means that this mold produces something, some kind of an antibiotic or some kind of a chemical that inhibits the growth of the bacterial cells, that inhibits the growth of the bacterial cells. So in 1928, biologist Alexander Fleming observed that the fungus Penicillium notatum was capable of killing many kind of bacteria. So this is the name of the fungus, Penicillium notatum, and that is why the medicine, the antibiotic, has the name penicillin. So that was the first antibiotic discovered. What are antibiotics? Chemicals that can slow or stop the growth of bacteria. So it's very important to know antibiotics works against bacteria but not against viruses, and they are produced from they're produced naturally by living organisms. Like penicillin is produced by Penicillium notatum. Antibiotics kill bacteria. They kill the bacteria but they do not harm the human cells. Okay, so this was just some history I wanted to give you. And so from this we learned how the first antibiotic was formed, and also we learned that bacteria and fungus, they are two different kinds of cells. So the main topic of this chapter is cells. So before we go and talk into the details of the cells, you must know what is cell theory. So cell theory is a very well accepted theory in biology, and this theory says that all living organisms, they're made of cells, and cell is the basic unit of life, and all the pre-existing cells come, so all the cells, they come from the division of the pre-existing cells. So these are the three features of the cell theory. So cells are, all living organisms are made of cells. Cell is the basic unit of life, and all the new cells, they come from the pre-existing cells. And this slide actually shows different kinds of cells. So the cells are of different kinds. These are diatoms. Diatoms are algae. They are single celled eukaryotic cells. I'm going to discuss with you what are prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells very shortly. Then amoeba is a single celled eukaryote. Then bacteria, they are single celled prokaryotes. Then fungus, mold, these are molds, fungus, single and multicellular eukaryotic cells. Then allodia, multicellular eukaryote, and these are human heart cells. They are also multicellular eukaryotes. Now the cells, they can be divided into two broad categories. They can be prokaryotic cells and they can be eukaryotic cells. Now what is a prokaryotic cell? A prokaryotic cell, So first of all, the word karyota. The word karyota means nucleus. Prokaryotic means those cells which were there before the origin of the nucleus. So prokaryotic cells are those cells actually which do not have the nucleus and the other membrane enclosed organelles. And what are eukaryotic cells? Eukaryotic cells are those cells which have membrane enclosed organelles inside them, which have those. So prokaryotic cells do not have membrane enclosed organelles like nucleus. Eukaryotic cells, they have them. So let's talk about the structure of a prokaryotic cell. So pro cell is a simple form of cell. You can see that this is the cell membrane, okay, and outside the cell membrane is actually in some of the bacteria they also have cell walls, bacterial wall. So they have they have cell membrane, then they have cell wall, and their cell wall is of a special chemical called peptidoglycan, and inside here is a cell which is a jelly material where everything is so cytoplasm is a jelly kind of material in the chromosome, which is the genetic material in the bacteria, is sitting, and there are some atoms and all that, they are all in the cytoplasm. So this is basic structure of a prokaryotic cell. Cell is a very simple cell surrounded by membrane, and outside membrane is a cell wall, and inside there is a cytoplasm, and in the cytoplasm is the genetic material, or the bacteria usually have one single circular chromosome, and this is a eukaryotic cell. So what's the difference between eukaryotic cell? Eukaryotic cell has membrane enclosed organelles. Eukaryotic cell has membrane enclosed organelles. So you can see here, this is a eukaryotic cell, and inside you can see this is a nucleus, then these are the mitochondria, these are Golgi apparatus, this is endoplasmic reticulum. Now what are the common things which prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell both have? They both have a cell membrane which is made of phospholipids and proteins, both have cytoplasm, both have ribosomes, and both have DNA as a hereditary molecule. Now ribosomes, they are complex of RNA and protein. Okay, so ribosomes, they are a complex of RNA and protein that can carry out protein synthesis. So basically ribosomes, we call them, they are protein factories. So we call them their protein factories. So they are kind of a complex of RNA and protein on which protein synthesis can be done. Okay, so what is so special about eukaryotic cells? So we just talked about some of the features which are there both in the prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. So what is there in the eukaryotic cells which is possessed only by the eukaryotic cells? Nucleus, number one, okay, an organelle that contains the DNA and many other organelles. So basically eukaryotic cells have many membrane enclosed organelles. What is a prokaryotic cell? What does a prokaryotic cell have? They have no membrane enclosed organelles. Their DNA is floating freely in the cytoplasm, and they do have a cell wall which is made of peptidoglycan. Okay, so till now we have talked about the story about Alexander Fleming and the discovery of the wonder drug. Then we talked about cell theory, then we talked about different kinds of cells, and now we have talked about what are the differences between prokaryotic and the eukaryotic cell. And now we are going to talk about basically how do antibiotics they target the prokaryotic cells. So as we just talked about the bacteria, they have the prokaryotic cells. See, we talked about prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. Bacteria are prokaryotic cells. Okay, bacteria are the most simple form of life. They are prokaryotic cells, and eukaryotic cells include animal cells, plant cells, fungus. They all are eukaryotic cells. Okay, so now let's talk about How do antibiotics target the prokaryotic cells? So we know that antibiotics, they work against bacteria, and bacteria are prokaryotic organisms. So bacterial cell walls are made of peptidoglycan. Okay, and what is peptidoglycan? It's a polymer made of sugars and amino acids. And this peptidoglycan actually allows the bacteria to survive in water environment. So basically, because in the cell wall, these bacteria, they have the peptidoglycan. So because of that, penicillin, it can weaken the cell wall. So penicillin, when it weakens the cell wall, what's going to happen? So when the cell wall is weakened, lot of water is going to get into the body of the bacteria, and it is going to burst by the process of osmosis. So basically, the bacteria, they are able to survive in watery environment because they have this cell wall, and the cell wall is made of peptidoglycan, which is a tough molecule. But when we eat the antibiotic, the bacterial cell wall becomes weakened, and because it becomes weakened, a lot of water can enter into the bacterial cell, by the process of osmosis, because antibiotic has weakened its cell wall. And what is in the cell wall? Peptidoglycan. Now we're going to talk about what is osmosis. So basically, osmosis is the movement of water molecules from high concentration to lower concentration through semi-permeable membrane. So it's the movement of water molecules from the high concentration of water molecules to the lower concentration of the water molecules. So basically, there are three terms: hypotonic, hypertonic, and isotonic. Okay. So osmosis, as I said, it's the movement of water molecules. So osmosis is the movement of water molecules from high concentration to lower concentration. So when we are talking about high concentration to lower concentration, we are talking about the concentration of water molecules, and it takes place through the semi-permeable membrane. Now, to understand osmosis, we need to know three terms: hypotonic, hypertonic, and isotonic. Okay. So these are always relative terms. You must know that whenever we are comparing two solutions, then only we can say this solution is hypotonic to this solution, or this solution is hypertonic to this solution. So hypertonic, basically what means, hypertonic is that solution in comparison between two solutions. So hypertonic solution is that solution in comparison to two solutions which has high concentration of the salts. And what is hypotonic solution? Hypotonic solution is that solution which is which in comparison to two solutions, it has less amount of salts in it. And isotonic solutions are those with the same concentration of the salts or the solutes. So now let's talk about how does osmosis takes place when we have a cell in the different kinds of solutions. Suppose this is our cell. Okay, this is our cell, and this cell is now put into hypotonic solution. So the cell inside has cytoplasm. So the solution we are comparing now is the cytoplasm. So cytoplasm is a solution. Okay, so when the cell is in hypotonic solution, so hypotonic means it has outside less salt, more water, correct? And as a result of that, what will happen? As a result of that, the water is going to move in the cell, because osmosis is the movement of water molecules from high concentration to lower concentration. So if this is the cell and outside is hypotonic solution, which means that outside there is more water as compared to inside. So as a result of that, osmosis is the movement of water molecules from high to low concentration. So that is why when the cell is in a hypotonic solution, water is going to move in the cell, and as a result of that, this cell is going to swell. Let's talk about hypertonic. Now hypertonic means the cell is in a solution in which outside there is lot of salt. If there is lot of salt, which means there will be less water. So where is water more, inside or outside? The water is more inside. So in this case, the water is going to move from inside to outside. So when the cell loses water, it becomes shrunk. Okay, that's also called plasmolysis. Okay, what will happen when the cell is in the isotonic solution? It means that the concentration of salts inside the cytoplasm as well as the concentration of salts outside is same, and as a result of that there is no movement. There is no movement of the water molecules. Okay, now we are going to start talking about the structure of the cell. Let's talk about cell membrane, and cell membrane is present in both the prokaryotic and the eukaryotic cells. So basically cell membrane is a common feature of both the prokaryotic and the animal cells. Sorry, not the animal cells, prokaryotic and the eukaryotic cells, and animal cell is a kind of a eukaryotic cell. So the first of all, the main feature which is common both to the prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells is the cell membrane. Now the cell membrane, all the cells are surrounded by cell membrane, and the cell membrane is made of a phospholipid bilayer with proteins embedded in the phospholipid bilayer. So you can see here, this is the phospholipid bilayer and these are the proteins which are embedded in the phospholipid bilayer. Now we are going to talk about the eukaryotic cells in detail. Eukaryotic cells are those cells which have the membrane enclosed organelles in them. So you can see here, this is a animal cell and this is a plant cell. You can see animal cells do not have cell wall, plant cells have cell wall. Plant cells have this central vacuole. Animal cells don't have this much big vacuole. Plant cells have chloroplast in them, and animal cells don't have the chloroplast. So these are the three main differences between animal and the plant cells. So animal and the plant cells both are kind of a eukaryotic cells, and eukaryotic cells are those cells which have membrane enclosed organelles in them. Okay, now we are going to talk about the different organelles of the eukaryotic cell. So first is nucleus. So nucleus is considered the brain of the cell because all the information is there. How the cell will behave, how cell will move, all that information is there in the nucleus, and that information is in the form of the DNA. So you can see here, this is the nucleus. This is the largest organelle. It's the brain of the cell because it contains the most important information, which is the genetic material, which is the DNA. So this is the nucleus. Inside the nucleus there is a region which is called nucleolus. Okay, so this is nucleus. Nucleus is surrounded by the nuclear membrane, and there are pores in between. Okay, so these are called nucleopores. The next organelle is endoplasmic reticulum. It is also very important. So endoplasmic reticulum is basically the external membrane. So here you can see in this picture that this is the nuclear membrane. This is the one which actually extends into the cytoplasm, and they are called endoplasmic reticulum. So endoplasmic reticulum, so word endo means inside, endoplasmic means the membrane, reticulum is a network. So it's a network of membranes. So endoplasmic reticulum is in continuation with nuclear envelope, and there are two kinds of endoplasmic reticulum. One is called rough ER and the other is called smooth ER. So rough ER is that endoplasmic reticulum which is embedded with ribosomes, and smooth ER is that endoplasmic reticulum which does not have ribosomes on it. So ribosomes are there are no ribosomes on this side. So the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, it gives it doesn't have the rough texture, so it has a smooth texture. That's why they called smooth ER. So rough endoplasmic reticulum is responsible for forming proteins, and the smooth endoplasmic reticulum is responsible for forming the lipids. Okay, the next organelle is Golgi apparatus. So Golgi apparatus is just like a post office of the cell. So post office is that place where these offices, they get letters from different areas, and the function or the job of the Golgi is they even undergo folding, and then they are sent to their destination. That's the function of Golgi apparatus. Now, nucleus, ER, and Golgi, they are basically connected. They work together to produce and transport proteins. So the nucleus provides instructions for making proteins. So the instructions, what kind of protein will be made, that is still it is there. That information is there in the nucleus, and the proteins are made in the ER. Yes, the proteins are made in ER and packaged into vesicles for transport to the Golgi apparatus. So they are made in the information is there in the nucleus, and in the ER they are made. They are not fully made. I mean, some more processings are required, and those processings are done in the Golgi apparatus. Okay, and then yeah, so after so how do important thing to know here is so the proteins which are made in the ER, how do they reach Golgi apparatus? So they reach to the Golgi apparatus, where modification and the folding of proteins is going to take place. And so how do they reach to the Golgi apparatus? They reach through vesicles. And how vesicles are formed? They are formed because this is all endomembrane system. So you can see here from the ER how a vesicle is being formed. So a vesicle is formed, and the function of vesicle is to take the proteins from ER to Golgi apparatus. Okay, so these vesicles, they are actually formed by the budding of the membrane from the ER. So these vesicles are also membrane sacs. So this is all membrane system. Okay. The next organelle we are going to talk about is mitochondria. It's a very important organelle because this is called the powerhouse of the cell. Now, why it's called the powerhouse? Because here the energy which we eat in food is extracted. Okay, so mitochondria is called the powerhouse, but it does not mean the energy is produced in mitochondria. No, the energy is extracted from the food we have eaten in mitochondria. So we eat different kinds of food. That food undergoes different stages, and finally the energy is extracted from the food we eat in the mitochondria. So that's why it's called the powerhouse. And what is its structure? It has two membranes, outer membrane and the inner membrane, and the inner membrane is invaginated like this. Okay, so and this is the matrix area. So outer membrane, inner membrane is invaginated. This is all the matrix area in the mitochondria. Next is chloroplast. So chloroplast is a special organelle which is found in the photosynthetic organisms like plants, algae, and bacteria. So chloroplast is a special organelle which can help in the process of photosynthesis. So basically they also have outer membrane, inner membrane, and they have these disc shaped structures called thylakoids, and the energy is released thylakoids, and they help in the formation of the carbohydrates by the plants. As you know that by the process of photosynthesis, plants make their own food, and these are thylakoids, and the function of thylakoids is in their membrane. They have a special kind of pigments, and those pigments can absorb the sun's light, and then some reactions take place, chemical compounds are formed, and this region is called the stroma, and the process of photosynthesis actually takes place in the stroma. Because in the stroma the carbohydrate, the glucose molecule is made, and that is the main product of photosynthesis. Okay, lysosomes. Now what lysosomes? Lysosomes are considered the garbage disposal system of a cell. So basically these lysosomes are also membranous sacs. They actually form from the Golgi apparatus. So these are like membranous sacs, and these membranous sacs, they have hydrolytic enzymes in them. So that is why anything foreign coming into the cell is taken care by the lysosomes. Yeah. So it's a garbage disposal system of the cell. Cytoskeleton. Now what is cytoskeleton? Cytoskeleton is the skeleton of the cell. Like we have a skeleton, we have bones, we have muscles. So we are standing on the skeleton, right? So similarly, every cell has a skeleton, and it is called the cytoskeleton. Now there are three different, which you need to remember the three names. There are three different. So the cytoskeleton is all made of protein filaments, and there are three different kinds of cytoskeleton elements. They are called microtubules, intermediate filaments, and the microfilaments. So we are not doing details, but you should know the names. That there are three protein filaments. There are three protein filaments which are called microtubules, microfilaments, and intermediate filaments, which actually they are the ones which make the cytoskeleton. Okay, the last thing in this chapter we are going to talk about tumor cell morphology. As you know, this course has a theme called At War with Cancer. So I'm going to compare a lot of topics with the cancer biology. So because this topic is on cells, we are going to discuss how do the normal cells look like and how do the cancer cells look like. It's going to be very interesting for you guys to know the difference between normal cells and the cancer cells. So you can see here the morphology of the cancer cell, and these are the normal cells. So large number of irregularly shaped dividing cells. So you can see here they are irregularly dividing. They are irregularly shaped dividing cells. So this is first character of the cancer cells. Now here the cancer cells, they are large variably shaped nuclei. So you can see they have a very large nuclei, large variably shaped nuclei. You can see the shape of the nucleus in a regular cell and the shape of the nucleus in the cancer cell. Small cytoplasmic volume relative to nucleus. So basically small cytoplasmic volume as compared to nuclei. So you can see here the nucleus is quite bigger, right? So in the cancer cells they have small cytoplasmic volume relative to nuclei. Variation in cell size and shape. So you can see these are normal cells, how they have some shape and they reproduce. So but these are the cancer cells, variation in the cell size and the shape. So you can see how different kinds of cell shapes will be loss of normal specialized cell features. So in the cancerous state there is also normal cell features. Disorganized arrangement of cells, how the normal cells are arranged and how the cancer cells are arranged. Poorly defined tumor morphology. So you can see these cells don't have any boundary. Poorly defined tumor boundary. So the tumor cells do not have the tumor boundary. Okay, this picture again shows the differences between normal and the cancer cells. So these are the normal cells, these are the cancer cells. So the normal cells, they have large cytoplasm. This is one of the very important thing to know. They have single nucleus, they have single nucleolus. So these are all three cells. This cytoplasm is large in the normal cells. They have single nucleus, single nucleolus, and they have fine chromatin. This is a normal cell. These are cancer cells. Now let's see what are the differences. Now cancer cells, they have small cytoplasm. Okay, they have multiple nuclei. In the cancerous cells, they can have they can have the cancer cells, they can have they do have small cytoplasm. Why do they have small cytoplasm? Because the nucleus is very big. Okay, so and they also have multiple nuclei. So you can see in this cell there are multiple nuclei. They have multiple nuclei, and they have multiple or large nucleoli, and they have a porous chromatin. So these are the main differences between normal and the cancer cells. So that's all we need to know from the cell on the chapter on cells. If you have any question, please let me know.